So bit reduction plugins are going to give you that crunchy, high-end distortion sound we just heard in the bumper, and they're going to do it in two different ways. One is the sample rate, and the other is the bit depth. Now some plugins, like Native Instruments Byte or Nuendo's internal bit reduction, give you a knob for each, so you can control those two different types of distortion independently. But a lot of them, like the one inside of Massive X, just has one knob that does both sample rate and bit reduction. To understand what's going on a little better, first let's look at just the bit reduction half. You can sort of think about bit reduction as the digital version of the wave getting flattened at the top and the bottom, literally sort of squeezing it to be more of a square wave shape. And we can visualize this with the sine to trapezoid wavetable here in Massive X. You'll notice that despite the changing wave shape, our original signal, which in this case is the fundamental sine wave, is never lost during the process. And that's exactly the same with reducing the bit depth. We're just adding noise on top of our original wave shape. All of this noise that's added is odd harmonics, and they're the result of rounding errors as the wave jumps to the nearest bit and gets flattened. This is one of the reasons that it was really convenient to work with square waves in a low bit system. Anything that already has a lot of harmonics isn't going to be as dramatically affected by bit reduction. To really hear it, you need to start with something that only has a few harmonics, like a sine or triangle wave. Let's sweep through this wave and listen to the different effects it has based on the wave shape. You'll hear that the sawtooth wave has some effect as it's affecting every other harmonic, but when we get to the square wave, there's almost no effect at all. And that's because the square wave already has all of the harmonics that bit reduction would have added to the signal. We can actually add some white noise to a bit reduced signal to create a rudimentary dither. It's going to randomize some of that quantization error and slightly reduce the odd harmonics that are added. In order to demonstrate this, let's use Nuendo's bit crusher, and we'll set it real low to where it essentially destroys our signal. So you can see right around 2.4 it disappears completely. But then let's bring in some white noise. And you can see we're bringing our signal back from the dead. If we remove our bit reduction, you'll see that this sine right here is our original signal. But without that noise, we'll lose it completely. Now, you don't need to know all that to use bit reduction, but you should know the effect it's having. It's adding odd harmonics, and it's raising the noise floor. So if you use it on a square wave that has a high noise floor, you're going to get almost no effect out of it. But if you use it on a very pure triangle wave, you'll really be able to hear it. Now let's jump over to sample rate reduction. And to do that, we're going to use Byte from Native Instruments. Sample rate reduction creates a high-end distortion known as aliasing, where frequencies above the Nyquist, or your effective recording rate, get folded down onto the signal below it. Now, this sort of distortion is present in all recorders, but something like your audio card on your PC has a low-pass filter just below the Nyquist, which prevents any of this distortion from entering your recordings. If you remove that filter, you're gonna start to hear that aliasing rolling into your signal. And it's pretty easy to see this using something like Insight. This requires frequencies to be above the Nyquist. So the more harmonics you have, the more of an effect that you're going to get from sample rate reduction. So to sum it up, bit reduction raises the noise floor and adds odd harmonics to your signal. Sample rate reduction is going to create high-end frequencies that roll down into your sound. Bit reduction plugins have been used more and more for that sort of neon throwback style. And they're a great way to instantly put your audience in a certain headspace or emotion. Hopefully, armed with this knowledge, you'll be able to make more informed decisions when using these plugins.